Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Leka, Devatha. Hey, how did I do?
You did good.
Okay.
You did good. You almost nailed it, but
not quite. Okay, so how do we say it properly?
So Leka,
Yeah.
like Lake Washington, Leka,
Yeah.
Devatha.
Devatha. Okay,
Yeah.
my apologies. Well, I get called Barry all the time, like a berry on a tree. You know what I mean? That's what people.
What is it?
It's Barry. Yeah, but Barry is same. My wife calls me Barry, so that's what I tell everyone. If she can, if she calls me that, that's essentially my name.
It's
so
good.
that's about it. Yeah. Well, cool. Hey, well, thank you so much for making time to be here today and let me talk to you and have a great conversation with you, no doubt. Very excited about all of that. But before we do, can you sort of introduce yourself and give people an idea about what you've been up to and so on?
Yes. So hi, Barry. I'm excited to be here. Cirque du Soleil growing up has just been one of my favorite shows to go to, and I pretty much watched a lot of them. And so to sit down with you is an absolute honor. So thank you for having me. So I grew up in India and I moved to the United States about 14 years ago. And I started my career in fashion at Nordstrom Inc. and just had a wonderful career there. But, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so that's when I kind of started looking at what else I could be doing. Real estate sort of just fell in my lap. I had just built our personal residence with a builder, and that process just got me really excited about building homes and construction. And so I looked into it and said, okay, what can I do with construction? And the first thing that jumped at me was flipping a house. I didn't know that concept even existed. So, to have come across it was just like a light bulb moment for me. And so I bought my first deal to flip in September of 2014. I didn't make any money on the first deal, but I didn't lose a lot of money. And wow, that feels like a long time ago. But since then, I flipped over 50 homes, everything from single family to fourplexes. I've done some crazy deals like adding 1,200 square foot additions to a 3,500 square foot home, subdividing lots, taking down historical lot lines, just the crazy, crazy real estate stuff. So yeah, it's been a really fun career and joyride so far, and I'm excited for a lot of the cool things that I'm about to do.
Well, yeah. Well, I think you've done a lot of cool stuff already. But going back to your primary residence, what made you guys? Was it did you buy a plot of land and build on it yourself, or were you buying one of many constructed new construction buildings in a large site?
Yeah, so we were looking at homes for a good year and nothing was kind of matching up to my expectations. And so finally we saw this house just on Redfin, and we were like, oh, this is cool. It's a big house on a nice lot in a beautiful suburb of Seattle. And so we drove to the house, but there was no house. It was just a piece of land. And so when we went to speak to the builder, and the builder said, yeah, it's essentially just a lot right now, but we have plans to build. So while I couldn't change the basic structure of the house, I could change everything else inside it, which was super cool. So we were able to add like ensuite baths in all the rooms. And, even back then, having no construction background, I think we came up with a pretty good floor plan for the house. And so that was just a fun, interesting time.
But did you have any interest in real estate before that? Was it, because, it's one thing to have someone build everything out for you and get it done, right? But to have that interest in wanting to do that, right? Most people will be like, oh, I don't want to deal with all that. Because I'm sure it was a lot, right? It's a lot of design, a lot of reconfiguration, figuring out, hey, what size do we want the bathroom to be? Where does it go? Where does this go? Where does that go, right? It's not as simple as just being, okay, let's build this house. But was there an interest in real estate there before, you think, or did that process ignite that interest?
Real estate has always, for me, felt like the one one medium to create a legacy. And I didn't care what the process was. I didn't care what was involved in getting there. I just wanted to get there. And so if I could have fun building up a legacy, then, why not do it? And so real estate just happened to be something that was one of just a means to an end. And I just have a lot of fun with it. So, yeah.
And then what was it about flipping, you think? Was it just that fact that you'd gone through that process of that initial primary residence that you guys built, so you kind of saw that and thought, okay, I could be good at this? Or was there something else that attracted you to flipping?
Honestly, I wanted to do new construction. So I wanted to buy land and then build new. Once I started researching it, I realized that was a huge undertaking, especially if there were no utilities, no horizontal construction. Then, it was identifying the lot, it was bringing in all the utilities and then building the house. And then who knows what the market would do at the end of that time frame, which could take anywhere from 1 to 2 years. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to give up a paycheck for that long of a time. And so I said, okay, what is just an easier way to do the same thing? And I was driving in my car and there was a radio ad for a flipping company. And I was like, what is that? And so I researched them and I went to one of their webinars. And that's when I realized that there's this whole other industry that would take old homes and recycle them and basically give it a new meaning, new purpose. And so I was like, that is super cool. That is also, basically cutting the time in a quarter. And so, that's why I started to flip homes. And that first flip took me about 5-6 months from start to sale. So much faster.
Yeah. But what was that process from listening to that? You went to the webinar, I think you said, right, and talking about flipping and whatnot. What was the process from listening to that to getting your first deal and the contract to then selling that first deal? Was there a long time frame? Did you get any coaching? Like how did that all play out?
Yeah, actually that, just looking back at my career, that I would say was the most challenging time for me, because from the time I heard that webinar to then joining their program, they had a coaching program. So joining that coaching program to then quitting my W-2 and diving into this full time. And then, trying to find people in real estate across the city in, multiple areas of real estate, and then networking with them to eventually get my first deal under contract, and then finding the contractor and, going through that deal. I would say that was super challenging. And it took from the time I heard that first webinar, I believe it was February or March, and I was under contract at my first deal in September that same year.
So that time frame in between, that was just education and building a team and trying to find deals. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Between that, I don't think I watched TV for one day. I just immerse myself in education. So lots of books, lots of videos, lots of training material on, what the different aspects of investing were. What is real estate really even mean? How can you invest, whether it's multifamily, single family, rentals, flips, new construction. There's so many different areas you could go into. What was best suited for me. So figuring all that, I think, took a while.
Yeah, and I remember being the same when I first started. I probably for the first year and a half, didn't listen to any music in the car. If I'm in the car, I'm listening to a podcast or an audio book or something like that, right? I was like, the same when I was like, the good thing about when I work for Cirque du Soleil, and I'll tie this back because I know you love it, we do our own makeup at Cirque du Soleil. A lot of people don't realize that, because on my show, for example, we have 70 to 80 artists. So can you imagine if they didn't do all the makeup, like if they had makeup artists doing all the makeup, because we all wear, I said makeup, face paint, call it whatever you want, right? Maybe face paint.
Extensive face paint.
Yeah. So that's the first thing they teach you. So when I got signed with Cirque du Soleil, they flew me out to Montreal where the headquarters are, and before teaching me anything else as part of the show or anything, they're like, hey, come do makeup, and they teach you to do makeup, because you've got to learn how to do it yourself, because can you imagine trying to do makeup on 70, 80 artists? So that's the very first thing that they teach you, and it takes you a while, especially for me. Like I don't have that artistry at all. Like, should have seen, I still have pictures of my makeup. I'll have to share them with you of my first few makeups. Oh, it looked like a 5-year-old that scribbled all over my face. Because also, like, as a woman, obviously you're used to doing your makeup, but as a guy, it's one thing to draw on a wall or draw on a piece of paper, but when you're doing it on your face through a mirror, it's so strange to start off with. So we had to learn how to do that, and then it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to do my makeup every day when I'm at work.
Whoa.
So yeah, every day. Yeah, so every day, because I'm one of the main characters, so that my makeup is more
Extensive.
Extensive, more detail to it, so it has to take a lot more time. But that hour, I always took it as a positive. That hour, I always listen to a podcast and an audiobook every day, and I kind of miss that time, because now that we're not working, I have a kid and a wife, and tons of stuff that I need to do, and I lose that hour every day that where I would I fly through audiobooks, right? Listen to 1.5 speed, and that's 5 hours a week. So I miss the time, but I can completely relate to what you're saying. Like, I remember when I first started, wouldn't watch TV. I'm like, why would I watch TV when I can read an article, or I can blah blah blah? Because it consumes you, right? You get so excited about it and you love it so much. It's cool. So
I love that. I love that you have to do your own makeup. My God.
Yeah, and people don't realize. Yeah, people don't realize, and it's like
easy.
It was a long learning curve for me. Like, some people take to it pretty good. I was terrible for the longest, and people would probably say I'm still terrible 5 years in, but I try my best. But talk about that first deal, because I think you said when you were in your introduction, you said I didn't lose a lot of money, right? Or I did. So did you lose some money? Or what? Talk us through that first deal. How did you find it? How did you fund it? Some mistakes that you maybe made along the way?
Yeah, I think I can tell you with full confidence that I made every mistake in the book. I bought the deal like sight unseen, which, for the first time, you should never do that. But I did that.
What made you, out of interest, what made you have the confidence to do that, or want to do that?
It wasn't confidence. It was just, there was such a big lack of inventory. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm getting a deal. Let me just do it. Like, let me just dive deep and go for it. Because if I fail, then I have time to recoup whatever I did. But like, if I didn't ever do it, then I might just sit back on the sidelines and brood about it a year from now. And so I was like, okay, let me just go for it. And so I bought the deal sight unseen. The wholesaler that I bought it from was basically like, yeah, the seller doesn't want any walkthroughs. So this is it. These are photos. You have to buy it. Now, also because I bought it sight unseen, I went with whatever rehab budget that they had put on it. So they said it was going to cost me $60K to fix it up. But after I bought the deal and I walked many contractors through it, I realized it was more like $120K to fix up. But, luck was on my side. Our market appreciated some. And so I didn't lose a lot of money where I could have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I only lost $5,000. And that's because I went to the job site every single day, made sure to hold my contractors accountable. That was one thing that I was good at, was, just that process. I took it in, and I just didn't take anyone else's word for it, because I'd already done that with the deal. So I was like, okay, what is the best way to salvage this deal? And so that's pretty much what I did. That house, by the way, I mean, it's been like 7 years now. It just sold for 3 times as much a month ago.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I should have kept it.
But hindsight's a beautiful thing. Everything looks differently in the future, right? When you're looking back, it's easy to say that. But yeah, well, on that first deal, how did you analyze it? Did you simply, this is the purchase price, this is the ARV, this is the rehab that the wholesaler told me, so this is essentially what I'm going to make? Was that the depth of the analysis, or did you do more analysis?
No, I think I had done a lot of through the education that I had received. I knew how to analyze deals well. And also, like, my thing is, back when I didn't have a single deal to work on, what I would do is go in and out of a lot of homes, just evaluating them in my own head, looking to see what were they selling for, how were they being fixed up, and then how were they being resold, and how much were they being resold for. So in that process, I was really well versed with how much I could sell the property for in this area. And so I kind of, I did a lot of research, let's just say.
Right. And then on that first deal as well, you said you were on the job site every day, but by your own admission, you've done your primary residence, but that doesn't mean that you have contractor experience, right? So when these people were doing the work and you were watching them or whatever, were you asking them to teach you, or was that the learning process, or was it just more making sure that they were there working?
No, I was bugging them to teach me everything they knew. I was like, okay, why does the drywall go after the plumbing and electrical and insulation? Like, why can't you insulate before putting plumbing and electrical? Like, I didn't know anything about construction. I didn't know what orange peel texture was. Like, I had no idea. And so that's why, like, going back and sitting with my contractors every single day saying, hey, what's on the agenda for today? What are we doing next week at this time? What are we doing the week after that? When do we order cabinets? When, like just figuring that process out. Took a while, but I mean, it took me a good 8-10 homes to finally figure it out. But that first home taught me so much. That's for sure.
And how did you find your contractors for the first one? Because finding a contractor as well, that's another challenge in itself, right? Especially starting out, right? When you don't have your teams in place and you don't have the experience and maybe the track record as well. Yeah. How did you find the contractors for that first deal?
Oh my God. So the first house, I interviewed 14 contractors.
Wow.
And I literally went on Craigslist and, I had ads running on Craigslist, on Thumbtack, on social, like just Facebook pages. So, and then I reached out to everybody in my network and said, hey, who do you know? Handyman, Yelp, name it. So I ended up getting a full pool of contractors, and I literally walked every one of them through my home. And I said, give me a bid. This is kind of what I have in mind. So give me a bid. And then I ended up going with someone that I really thought I would work well with.
And then, so what were you to help, people who might be looking to do their first flip? What were you looking for in a contract? Because it's one thing to walk 14 through, and that's great. That shows dedication and shows, that you're determined to find the right person for the job. But, if you don't necessarily know too much about construction, how do you pick out of the 14, right? They may all sound good or they may all sound terrible. How did you decide on the contractor you went with?
I was looking for someone that would educate me, and someone who was willing to give me their time. And so it was more of like a gut feeling that, okay, this person's going to be patient and this person's going to help me through the process. And then I also was looking for someone who was flexible. If I changed my mind, I mean, it was my first house. Like if I said, okay, paint the whole house yellow, but then I changed my mind and said, no, I really wanted gray, right? I wanted someone to be patient, someone to be flexible and not nickel and dime me. So I did see a lot of contractors that came in well under the price, and I saw a lot of contractors coming in way high. The contractor I ended up going with was a little bit more on the higher side, but he was also extremely nice to work with, which is what I was looking for. So that's why, when I tell people, when you're looking for your first contractor, forget about the price. It doesn't matter how much or how little you're paying them, but it has to be that connectivity factor, that instant chemistry. And that's kind of what I went off on.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And I think people too often, when hiring contractors, simply go by price, right? And of course, price is important, right? We're investors. We're doing this for money. But if you can hire someone that seems super expensive and they might have the higher price, and you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. But if you go with the cheapest person, sometimes they're more expensive than that higher expensive, because they won't do stuff right. They'll steal from you. They'll do all kinds of stuff. And you would have been better just getting that high quality person to start off with. So don't go just by price. Take that into consideration, in my opinion anyway. And I don't know if you found this to be true. I'd rather pay a little bit more, know that they're going to do a good job, know that they're going to be there, know that they're not going to steal from me, know that everything is going to essentially kind of go, nothing ever goes as planned, but kind of as planned. And pay that little bit extra, because I think in the long run you'll actually save
a lot more. I mean, education is priceless,
right? Yeah.
And I think that helped me set me up to do amazing deals in the future.
Yeah. And with that, what do you what's your favorite deal you've done? Because there's too many to go through individually. But
yeah, I mean, there's so many, but I just I mean, so okay. single family fix and flip is just near and dear to my heart. I love it. I'm so good at it. And I'm always making a killer of a exit. And so that's any of my single family flips. And I'm not kidding. Every single flip of mine looks different. It's going to feel different. I put in a lot of thought and energy into the different tiles, trim, finishes. So all my single family flips are awesome. In terms of like a technical process that I went through that I loved was a lot subdivision, where I bought this house to just flip, a single family home on a large lot. I bought it to flip it. But right after I closed on it, I realized I could actually subdivide it. And so I ended up starting the process of subdivision back in 2017. And then I got the final okay from the city 3 years after that.
Okay.
And then
quick process then.
Great quick process, right? But it all worked out because then I was able to do my horizontal construction 3 years after. And after my horizontal construction, I was able to sell off the house and then the 2 lots. In fact, my second lot closes in a couple of weeks. And that whole process, as sticky as it was, and it was a huge learning process, I think I did really well on that. And that's always going to be a project that is near and dear to my heart.
So did you build on those lots, or did you just sell them off individually?
Yeah, I just sold the lots for $500,000 each.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a great area in Seattle. And the person that bought it is building a house for herself and one for her son.
Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and what you said also, I think a lot of flippers who do a lot of volume, usually it's almost like a print and repeat kind of process for them, right? They have this is the light that they're going to use, this is the tile that they're going to use, this is the cabinet they're going to use, this is the flooring they're going to use, and they just print and repeat. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's great. You're able to do a lot of volume like that. You're able to really juice your returns like that as well. But obviously it seems like you do things a little differently. Like yours, you said every project is unique, right? Does that go back to your you said you like to design, right? And you were a designer, right?
Fashion.
So is that fashion, and
you know what it is I think your market defines the kind of projects you take on and you do. Like my friend in Vegas that I just told you about, he flips I think 100 homes a year. But our net profit is the same, and I flip 1 home a year now. But the reason being that our real estate is just like, it's a lot more expensive to buy. Like on an average, my deal from buy and rehab costs about $1 million.
Wow.
And so the profit is at least 20% of that. And so when I go to sell one of my flips, I make about $200,000 in profit. And so I want my homes to like stand apart so that I could reach those high numbers. I want my buyers to walk in and be like, whoa, this is a stunner of a house. And so that's really like what it is. So I guess that your market really defines what you end up doing with the house.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting. So that's not your typical flip, right? You're not getting people doing this, right? Talk us through kind of, and I know everyone is unique, but kind of on a high level, what it kind of looks like, from maybe what the purchase price roughly is in terms of what the renovation is, and then how are you finding these deals? How are you funding these deals? Kind of walk us through the whole process if you can, what that looks like, and how long it takes as well, because I'm guessing it takes longer on one of these bigger deals.
Yes. Most of my flips do require permits from the city. And when there's permits involved, it's typically an 8 to 10 month process. The way I find my deals is by networking with wholesalers. So these wholesalers go and they'd like door knock or send direct mail campaigns out. And so I have a few buddies, in the Seattle market that I have always bought my deals from, and I will continue to buy from them because they always have my back. And so it's the same people that I buy my deals all the time. And so a typical like purchase price for a single family home that's about 2,000 to 2,800 square feet is, I would say, $550 to $650. And then I end up putting about $200K into the flip. So like between 150 and 200K, and we like literally take it down to the studs and then construct everything from there on up. So we're interchanging walls, we're adding bedrooms, we're adding bathrooms, master suites, beautiful outdoor decks, patios. You know, we have really lush green environment in Seattle. So, you know, taking that into account and doing a lot of like landscaping work and like before I never did any landscaping, and I'm like, man, I left so much money on the table because landscaping is what really changes the look and feel of the house. And so now landscaping is key, and I spend about 10 grand on landscaping on every house. So new sod, new rock, you know, beautiful like ornamental trees. um and so yeah, you know, and the finishes are all designer tile, designer lights. Like I love lights, so I do some cool things with lights. Like I even buy and build my lights because I like it so much, and they're expensive lights, so I can't let my contractor build them. um so I have fun with sconces and chandeliers and just, you know, really beautiful lights. Same with tile countertops. Like I use a big butcher block sometimes. I use black slate counters. um I do cool things with doorknobs and handles. Like every little character of the house is taken into consideration. And then these homes that, you know, you buy for like 550, you put in 200, 150, 200, those get listed for about 875 to 900, and mine end up selling for a million 50, a million to million 100. And it's because they look different from any other house in the market. You asked me about funding my deals. So back in 2018, I ended up meeting these two people that wanted to build a funding group to fund investors. And we became very good friends, and I became their first investor client. And now I am on the board of this company. It's called Certain Lending. And what we do is we finance fix and flip deals for investors across the country. So it's a fintech company that is based out of San Francisco, and they fund literally all of my flips, all my land acquisitions, my additions, whatever I need is funded by them.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. What kind of terms do you get? You probably get very good terms, I'm
I
guessing,
do get,
seeing as you're part of the business.
I do get good terms, but I've also done, I don't know, 25 deals with them,
Mm.
introduced them to hundreds of investors. And so, you know, I'm part of the family.
Yeah, and rightly so, right? Well, you what sets you apart is the detail you think that you put into these properties and the thought, right? Whereas other people might be just doing print and repeat type of process. Every property you try and make unique, I guess, and it seems like.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So the reason you only do one a year is just because it takes so much time and effort into doing one of these,
Well,
or
I
is it
don't.
just lifestyle thing as well, maybe?
No, I don't do just one construction project.
Okay.
I actually am also building a little bit of a rental portfolio. So I do a lot of that construction as well. So like 2 to 4 unit multiplexes, you know, taking a triplex, converting to a fiveplex. So I do a lot of construction. And so I only have that much time for a flip. So it's not one a year, it's more like two, maybe three a year. But it's before I would do 12 to 13 a year. And so I've definitely scaled back on flipping homes, and I focus more on my rental portfolio.
Very cool. And the rent portfolio, I'm guessing are you implementing sort of the burst strategy on that?
Yes.
Take it right. So
Yeah.
you can
And
keep
to do
growing.
like a burr in my market is
Hmm.
sophisticated. Like you need to know exactly what you're buying for, what you're going to put into it because it's expensive. And so, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort. Takes the
Yeah.
right deal finding, and then, you know, the right amount of construction, the right property management company. So yeah,
And
it's a
what was the main reason you decided to build? Because obviously you were having success flipping. Was there any reason why you decided to want to build a rental portfolio?
yes. So I actually met someone in 2017, and he was like, "What are you doing? Like, why do you keep flipping homes and then you're paying so much in taxes?" and you're not ever like saving any of that money because you're going and buying more deals, right? You just kind of get in this whole rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And then I was like, thought about that for a second. And I was like, that's so interesting. And just in looking at my area and how property value was rising year after year after year, I was like, man, if I just kept all the deals that I bought, considering, I was able to do like my mortgage actually paid, my rent actually paid my mortgage, not that I was putting money into these deals. The year over year appreciation was incredible. And so I was like, why not instead start looking at deals differently so that I could actually hold them as rentals? And so that's when I started doing BRRRRs. And, you know, people in the Midwest, they have 100 doors, 200 doors. My doors are really expensive doors. My doors are anywhere between 400 to 500 a door. So it's just a different strategy here. And so that's pretty much like what I do.
Very cool. Very cool. What's next for you think? Keep building that portfolio, keep doing the few flips here and there.
So next for me is I actually host a virtual networking event once a month, and I have amazing speakers. Like I interviewed Ken McElroy. I have amazing social media experts that come talk to my audience. And that's just grown through COVID. Like we've gone international, we've gone like global. And so I have people joining us from a few different locations across the world. So that's really exciting to see that I think we're providing a service to these people. And a lot of people ask me to invest in my fund, and I don't have a fund. So now I'm in the process of setting up that fund so that I can help these other people invest in good projects through me. So
Very cool. Yeah, exciting. And what kind of project is it? Flips? Is it rentals? Is it all of the above?
No, it's going to be more commercial real estate. So, finding good operators in that commercial real estate world that then I can then go partner with. That's kind of what I'm interested in doing.
Very cool. Very cool. Very exciting as well.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Well, hey, this is really cool listening to you talking. You're obviously very good at what you do and very successful. So it's great to listen to all that stuff. But as this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, maybe it should call Circus with Real Estate, because seeing as you're such a fan of Cirque du Soleil, but it's called Wrestling with Real Estate. I'd like to incorporate some wrestling related real estate questions. And the first question is, what would your wrestling name be?
I had to think about this, and I came up with Leka, the deal machine.
You told me that before. I thought that was awesome. And you came up with it quick, though. You didn't have to put too much thought in it. A lot of people struggle with this, and you came up with it quick. So Leka, the deal destroyer, the deal machine. What did you say? Sorry.
The deal destroying machine.
Destroying machine. There we go. Yes. That's badass. That's very cool. So every wrestler has a special move. What is your special move in real estate?
It would be making the right connection.
Okay. Which is important, right? Because
the jugular.
No, but it's important, right? Because these connections is what this business is built around, right? You always hear people say, the network is your net worth, but it's so true. Yeah, absolutely. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your investing career?
Financing my contractor who ran away with all the money that I gave him. That's the biggest body slam.
Was that early on?
It was early on, but it wasn't even that early on. I wish it was like way early on, but it was like on deal number 20 or something. And then I was like, wait, what did I just do? And so, I'm never doing that again.
So you paid him all up front? Is that what you did?
Not all up front, but a lot up front. And then, he just vanished and I was left in the dust.
Ugh, I'm sorry.
Body slammed.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. So was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, that would be my switching from my W to my real estate career moment, where I had a perfect job and a perfect team in a perfect company. And why would anybody give that up to do something that they didn't know anything about? I don't even know. Even today, I'm like, if I were to go back there, would I take that leap of faith? I don't think so. So what made me do it, I don't know, but it was that moment where I did jump off that building and I was like, let me open my parachute on the way down and see how it goes, That was
but
my
I love that, and that's just amazing because I'm sure a lot of people want to do what you did, right? And a lot of them don't even have the job that you had, right? In terms of the satisfaction and the love that you had for that, but it's awesome that you did that. I think it's so commendable and so brave, right? Because again, a lot of people want to do that. So awesome. Well, you have such a cool story and such a great amount of success, and no doubt it's going to be even bigger in the future. There's no doubt about that. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and everything that you've done with us, because it was a great conversation. But before we go, can you tell people more where they can find you, where they can get in touch with you, everything that you have, plug everything that you have, and all that good stuff?
Well, you can find me in 2 different places. I'm on LinkedIn as Leka Devatha, and I'm also on Instagram, and you can find me same Leka Devatha. And those are the 2 places you can connect with me. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to help. Happy to share what I'm working on. Just exciting, cool things.
Cool. Well, very cool. Well, Leka, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was, Barry. Thank you so much. And hey, I want to get this on record.
Oh, yeah. We said this.
Barry has promised to give me a backstage tour of his Cirque du Soleil set once it's open and running.
Yes.
So Barry, I'm going to hold you to it.
I'm gonna
in Vegas, and I'm going to come watch your show.
I'll say I'm going to give her a backstage tour. She's going to get pictures with the cast, and yeah, we'll and of course see the show. So yeah, definitely 1,000,000%. There's no getting out of that now. It's on recording, unless I get my editor to edit it out, though, of course.
No, don't do that to me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day out there in Seattle.
Thank you, Barry.